Welcome to All the Things They Don't Want You to Talk About podcast. This podcast will explore all the subjects that make the insecure squirm in their seats. Religion, politics, local and national, the Constitution of the United States, the wheel of love and hate, and mental illness, to just name a few. Stay with us as we use our freedom of speech to delve into the good and the bad. If this podcast is not for you, feel free to find another one. Without any further ado, here comes all the things they don't want you to talk about. Welcome to another episode of All the Things They Don't Want You to Talk About. And today we're going to be talking about something else that they don't want us to talk about. We're going to keep on talking about lifeguards. But first, I want to introduce our guest, the panel today. Jim Horan, good morning, or good day to you.
Good morning, everybody.
Yes, and same to you, Amanda Jones, who's here in the studio. She's been doing her research and due diligence, going to city council meetings and seeing how they are performed in the order. Best. Yes, in the order in which they are and the efficiency which they are. Whether it's efficient or not. Yes. And Heather Johnson, good day to you. Heather Johnson we're just going to call her now a water safety lifeguard advocate.
Yes.
Yes, we're going to.
Perfect.
Yes.
Private individual.
Yes. She is involved with a 501c3. It's 501c3, correct?
Yes.
But they aren't part of working on lifeguards. You are separate from them, correct?
Yes.
All right. So I want to make sure that we've got that clear, because a lot of people think that you are here as an agent of SHAPE when really you're just here as your own advocate for water safety and lifeguards in South Haven.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, we're keeping the two separate.
Yes. Okay. So
even though, if I can say,
yes.
SHAPE does advocate for lifeguards. We do think that lifeguards are the best solution, but we will not lobby for them.
We won't lobby for them. Okay,
under SHAPE.
All
nope.
right. So we're going to lobby for them under Heather Johnson is what we're going to do.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
Yeah. So, why we wanted to talk this week is that the city did put in their budget for 2025 water safety, and a couple of pretty big numbers, and there's some discrepancies kind of between the two, and all the work that you did and all those reports, it looks like you put a ton of time into it, and it does look like the city put some time into it, but it looks kind of more thrown together. Mm-hmm. Oh, we need this, we need that, without really any rationale for why you need it. Mm-hmm. So that's what we want to talk about with this, and that's kind of where it starts. So Heather, you put together a program and a budget, and you've actually been dealing with the city. I do believe you've taken a picture with our mayor, and she was saying before she was elected was lifeguards are, this a top priority. And yet we haven't talked about them really yet at all at any city council meetings. Is that correct, or has there been some discussion?
No, yeah. I met with her prior to taking office, and we met with a couple of different water safety experts. We also met with Lisa McDonald, who lost her daughter in 2022 to a drowning here in South Haven. And she was reassuring us that she would advocate for bringing the lifeguards back, and that she would do everything in her power in order to do that.
Yeah.
Since she's taken office, she had the option to put a number next to lifeguards and beach safety during their priority meeting, and she did not place not one number, and that was 1 through 17 that they could have placed next to that in order to indicate what level they saw that as a priority. Wow. She did not. So put
17
one.
Being probably the least priority, and number one. What was number one? What did they? Was that STRs?
It was housing. Okay. I believe it was housing. Yeah. Yeah. So the top 5 priorities out of that priority setting meeting was housing, STRs, jobs, beach safety, and I can't remember the last one, but there were 5 of them, and lifeguards was bottom of the list. Yeah. So
and there wasn't any top priorities about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
No,
because that seems to be what the top priority has been so far.
Yeah, no, there wasn't nothing talked about that.
Okay,
no.
So
that's a whole other podcast.
Yes, for sure. So DEI is number one, as opposed to safety to the people that visit and our locals in town. So
yeah, you would think that life would take a precedent over everything else.
Yeah. Well, now that we got that established, let's talk a little bit about these budgets. Your budget, you said it was at $200,000. Tell me a little bit about the time and where you got your sources from to put together this report.
So I worked really closely with Cam Dowry and Sean Russell. Sean Russell used to run the beach. He was the head lifeguard for quite some time with South Haven and was a lifeguard here in South Haven for a long time. So he had the expertise to know what it was exactly that they really needed out on the beach.
Right.
Cam has the finance background. And so we worked really closely together. We also worked with a couple other water safety experts who have worked in the field of lifeguarding. So they understand the cost of a lot of the things, and they also understand the equipment needed and how to actually start a program. So you want to, when you're doing a startup program or startup business, you have all these things that you have to buy, right? They're one-time purchases kind of thing.
Yes.
So we kind of went through all of that, and we also got quotes from Waterman. Waterman sells lifeguarding equipment and that kind of a thing. So we actually got a quote. Dave Benjamin actually reached out to Waterman and got a quote for the equipment that they needed in order to get started. So we kind of put all of that stuff together inside the budget. Now, what we did leave out was training because we had a feeling that we would be able to talk to some entities that would be able to come in and do that training either as a granted training so that the city wouldn't have to pay for that, or that they would donate that training.
Okay.
Oh, so you can get there's programs that have grants that can help communities get this kind of program started.
But you have to have the program before you can get a grant. You can't go for a grant and say, well, we're going to build this program. Please give us the money to make it, or not to make it happen, but to sustain it, because that's what grants are about, is sustaining programs.
And one of the things that I recognized when I watched the video of this city council meeting that was on April 15th was you kept saying we have to start it to find out most of this information. And that's probably the reason why then, because you can't just get a grant without a program.
Right. You can't get a grant without a program. And so if you start it with American Red Cross training, and then that American Red Cross training is taken into ISLA training, and then ISLA training is taken into a USLA training. So USLA actually certifies the entity itself.
What is USLA?
The United States Life Saving Association.
What's the other one? The USLIA or what?
It's ISLA, and it's, forgive me, I can't remember what the acronym stands for real quick off the top of my head. But so what happens is the ISL, go ahead, Amanda.
International Surf Life Saving Association.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I didn't want to say it wrong.
You gotta love technology and someone with a computer in the room.
Yeah, and I did not want to say that wrong. So, so what happens is you get the lifeguards certified with American Red Cross and ISLA, and then the USLA comes in and certifies the entire entity, stating that you have the prerequisites to be a USLA certified entity, lifeguarding entity. And so that's the steps that they would need to take. And so that's what we looked at too for budgeting and that kind of a thing. And we also had experts from both of those, ISLA and USLA, that offered to come in and do that training on an expedited situation. So we would be able to get lifeguards this year if they would have moved quicker.
Yeah.
And we had been, asking for that since January 2nd. So
well, I kind of have the feeling that the delay job is on right now. Is let's slow this down a bit. I have an issue with those that make promises and don't follow up when they get what they want. But I do want to say this and make sure everybody knows that's listening. I did invite all of the city council to be a part of this, and I also invited the mayor. I put it out online because, and I'm going to say it one more time, I will not ever do anything ever again in private with her. It will always be open and publicly asked. So that doesn't necessarily mean the same for the city council members. They deserve that respect from me, that I will talk to them privately or send them stuff privately. But with all that being said, we're not here to bash the mayor or to bash anybody else, especially city council or Kate Hosier, who is the city manager, because as of right now, she's an employee. So we're gonna, and she is a part of this because she wrote the budgets, and but we're gonna be, we want to look at these first and figure out what's going on. But what I see when there's that huge of a discrepancy is really writing a huge budget for every dream item they could possibly ever want in an attempt to not ever be able to do anything, because balancing $700,000 in that budget for water safety is not going to be an easy task. Other stuff is going to have to go. What goes?
Right. And that's why when I presented this lifeguard program to them, I showed them how they can phase this in. So you're not automatically from the jump spending $700,000.
Right.
You are starting a program and then over time building it to be that grand lifeguarding program that has all of the bits and pieces that make it a supreme entity, but when you first start out, yes, you want to do it accurately and you want to do it efficiently and you want to do it cost effectively. But you also need to make sure that it runs properly and everything like that. So in our budget, the biggest thing that I saw between theirs and ours is that we did not allocate money for HR, IT, that kind of a thing, because it would be housed underneath the city and the city already has those things in place. So we did not put that into the budget for the lifeguarding presentation that I did.
Did you build this budget and program for them as a program for the city to take on themselves? Or because a lot of people say that, well, obviously the city's not going to do it. They're going to probably want to subcontract and get that out of their hair and pay the money and not have to worry about it.
We built this. So me and the team, we kind of built this to be something that we could hand over to the city and the city could build off of the way that they wanted to. They can add, they can subtract, they can take it and they can say, this is the starting point and these are the things that we absolutely need to have. It's like giving them a recipe.
Sure.
And they have to follow the recipe, right? And so if you take an ingredient out, maybe you have to substitute an ingredient because you don't have one. And so that's why we gave it to them in the most broadest aspect, is so that they can take that and turn it into what they want it to be.
They did a $700,000 program.
They absolutely did. And then during the meeting, they actually asked me for a contracted entity. They specifically asked me for one.
If you knew one who could do this?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, but I think that it makes the most sense for the city of South Haven to do it rather than having an entity come in and be contracted. And they moved Shays 2 years ago into a contracted entity. Yeah. So I'm thinking that that's what they want to do, is they just want to live in contracts.
Has that not worked? I don't really know about Shays or how they operate. Has that not been a good thing since they went, private?
I'm not sure. I'm not involved in like their daily operations or anything like that to understand that. But
Shays?
Yes.
Yeah. I believe the police is also.
Yeah. Or the police, I'm not sure, but I definitely know that Shays is a contracted entity at this point, and they have been now for 2 years.
Well, that's interesting. That'd be a whole subject in itself.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, people don't know that. There's a lot of folks that in town, our locals, they don't know this.
So you took this to them. And they seemed very appreciative, and a lot of them were saying that their biggest concerns were, the liability, the insurance, and how they would take this on, and then they came back to you with their budgets after that. Is that correct?
No, their budget was actually presented in an 11-page letter after my presentation in the agenda packet, and it was never sent to me.
So that was the same evening that they had their budget put together already?
They had their budget put together prior to that meeting.
Okay, so they had one that matched yours at like 4.25 or something. 18 lifeguards, and then they had one that would how they saw it.
Yes.
Right.
That's 700 and some thousand.
Yeah. And also in our budget, we did not include legal teams.
Right.
We didn't include the liability insurance in ours because that would have been left up to the city to delineate what those budgets were in order to add it to ours.
So the council seemed like they were very appreciative of what you did, and it was very informative and it was very complete. The city had theirs. Has there been any effort whatsoever to try to have these reconcile the differences, have a staff level committee meeting with the community to do something to get it off dead center?
No, I keep being reminded that I am a private citizen only and that I have no say in how the city is run or that I can't be involved in those discussions.
Yeah, the only way you can be involved is with your vote, to tell you the truth.
But they won't put it for a vote.
Yeah, well.
Right. And this is a bit off topic, but with a lot of the problems in the community, there are offshoot community groups that are the neighboring programs and the short-term rental programs. it's crazy right now, and they don't want to speak to the citizens. It seems
This is why they'll never get anything done, and the citizens will always be telling them that they're wrong and that they're and cutting them down, and not. It's because they won't listen.
But if they actually took the talent pool that we have here in South Haven and they utilized people's talents, like I just went in and I said, you know, I'm a really great trainer. That's what I did at my previous jobs. I know how to train people really, really well. And I just have like that customer service aspect to myself that it makes it easy for me to do. So I offered that. I offered it for free.
How many teachers do we have in South Haven that don't work during the summer?
Right, exactly.
These are perfect people to do that job.
Oh yeah, to teach and
well,
stuff.
we're not Washington D.C. My goodness, we're
Right.
we're about 4,000 people.
Yeah.
It's not not that we have to have this overarching bureaucracy to reach any kind of a point, but could it go to like the Parks Department, or could it go to some committee that could at least start discussing it?
Do they still have the community rec like they used to out of school? Because back when I was there, they had the community rec what ran the program, Mike Vidmeyer.
Yeah, that's what.
But that's just all gone now, right? They don't even. They do have that, or they don't.
No, they don't. They're actually. I think that they're working to bring that back with this new millage with Shara.
Okay.
If you pay attention to what that millage, everything that's inside of that, it does look like something like the old CREC program that we had.
That was a great program. And
it was.
Each park was represented, and they competed against each other. The neighborhoods were all represented. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and underneath the CREC program is where they house the Lifeguard program, but they also utilized liability insurance through the school for the Lifeguard program, through the CREC program, and through the city of South Haven.
So how do we start talking as a community about this? I mean, can we get onto one of these, like say the Parks and Recreation Committee? There is one. I mean, they obviously manage all of our parks. Would that be a place to put it so that they could have a category that could be openly discussed on an ongoing basis to get it off dead center?
I think that's a great idea. And I think that that's exactly where it needs to be housed.
I think we could have those meetings right here with microphones and everything, and everybody can hear exactly what we're talking about.
You bring in guys like Mike Vidmeyer and stuff, and just you were housed under there at one time, and
bring in a few of the old lifeguards that did it before, and and ask them, what did you think they could have did better? What worked well for you guys?
Well, nothing's going to happen if you just keep throwing it out there that we've got this huge chasm and we can't bridge it, and it's too much money, it's too much liability. If nothing's going to happen if you don't at least have a forum to start making some progress.
Yeah.
Well, the bad thing is too, though, is that they think that they already did with the beach safety committee that they had back when into 2000, 2002, something like that. They had not 2002. I want to say it was 2020. 2020.
Oh man, I was going to be more fun with 2002, so I could bash them about 22 years. Come on.
Sorry, some dyslexia came in there.
It got lost in I2K.
I2K.
The big crash.
But they had the beach safety committees, and lifeguards wasn't even allowed to be spoken about until the very last minute. It's not on the agenda.
Maybe it's taboo.
You can't say it.
I think
it is. It's
I do
taboo.
think it is.
They really treated it like it's a taboo topic.
Maybe it's something they don't want us to talk about.
So you can go to tabootalkback.com for all the things they don't want you to talk about podcasts. You can learn a lot more.
We're going to be Jim.
And it's certainly a great website that you can go back and listen to past episodes, and you can also, as time goes on, we're going to be releasing maybe some records and emails that have been sent and that we've uncovered that kind of go against, trying to make this a better town. So, all right. So, Jim, I think that's very, very, the questions you asked are wonderful for sure. But I'd like to look a little bit about some of the differences. And I know, Amanda, you've been pouring through these budgets.
I got questions.
What are some of the things that you see in these budgets that just, especially the city's budget, that just maybe it's just too much?
Well, just looking at the budget itself, the $70,000 truck, you got to look at, okay, that's going to be insurance every month, the tags, that's a yearly expense, monthly expense even. Right. And that just seems ridiculous when you're saying that you need 2 ATV mules also. Well, the mules should be able to handle it just fine on both of those beaches. And you should be able to get anywhere on both sides, north and the south, I believe. I don't know. I don't have a mule to check these timings.
What is the mule for?
It would be just like the beach enforcement attendants have to drive through the beach.
Just riding around.
But they change the flags.
We call those patrols.
Right.
Patrol, okay.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like this lifeguard program would take anything away from beach enforcement. They can still have their own everything.
Yeah, 'cause I had the vision of the ATV sitting next to the lifeguard stand, and someone needs help out there, and they have to jump down to the ATV. Oh no, it's not starting. It's not starting.
No, Rob. That's the jet ski.
You just don't drown. Wait a second, I got to get this ATV started.
That's the one jet ski that they require.
They want a jet ski.
And I don't understand why they would need 2 ATVs, but only one jet ski. Where would the jet ski be housed? What's the insurance and liability on it
has to be housed
on a jet
in the
ski?
water because you don't want to put it on the beach and have to try to pull it into the water.
And Lord help us if it doesn't start.
And if it doesn't start, how much trouble are you in?
I look at they have the Emily device on here. They put 10,000. I don't think that's the right price.
No, they're $12,086, I believe, for one, and that is the very minimum version of it. That's without cameras. That's without GPS
okay.
and
That's
stuff
just
like
so you
that.
can
It's
say
just
we
the
have
basic.
one. Yeah, we have one.
Yes.
But they don't.
Can't do anything with
they
it.
have it on there, but not as a allocated thing.
Okay.
I feel, just from doing basic research on both of those items, I would rather the city have 2 Emily devices on each beach ready to go. Especially this past weekend with the 2 teenagers that floated out on their raft.
We talked about this in other radio shows and in the other podcasts about how dangerous those floaties are. Sorry about that.
Right. And the children did not have life jackets, and the life jackets were on the beach. People can use those. They didn't use them. They were treading water. The only thing that saved these kids was that there was a Van Buren Sheriff's County deputy already on the Black River.
Yeah.
If they weren't, those kids wouldn't have made it back to shore. And it could have been a very terrible, terrible thing that happened. And I just think of like the Emily device, from what I've seen, that very easily could have been, that might have even gotten there faster than maybe the sheriff's deputy. I'm not sure exactly where they were.
Right.
But just the average idiot citizen here, I feel like that would have been an amazing thing to have.
Yeah, and that Emily is usually housed in a box. So when we did the Emily presentation with Jeff Lohman in 2023, we invited him here to South Haven. I invited all of the different municipalities up and down the coastline from their fire departments and things like first responders in order to come and check this out. And part of that presentation was to tell everybody this should be housed in a box on the beach with a code. You call 911, you get the code, you enter the code, they give you a 5-step process. So you pull the key, you turn it on, you turn on the Emily, you take it to the beach, you deploy the system, you turn the dial in order to get it to go. Yeah. And very, very simple process. Though we had one of my volunteers had her 6-year-old daughter to show us how easy it is to maneuver this thing. We would never recommend a 6-year-old use it, but it shows how easy it is for anyone
It's idiot proof.
Yes.
Now, okay, so timing wise,
Yes.
how, even just like worst case scenario, how long would it take to deploy the Emily thing and get it in the water and moving?
I did some research on this to try to find like an actual time frame here, and I could not find that information. I did find
who has one.
So Jeff Lohman has the locations of all of them. St. Joe has one now. New Buffalo has one now. I want to say Pierre Marquette. Pierre Marquette has one now. Presque Isle.
Have they done any tests on it? Do they just have it, or are they, is there a way that we could go do a test and say, act like someone's drowning 50 feet out in the water and say, okay, we've got to go. Now I see you. How long is it going to take to get this device up and running and get to you? They
do. And they do utilize this thing all around the world. I mean, it's in other places, other countries and things like that. And it does have a great success record on rescues. But the only thing that I could find on timing was that it goes 24 miles per hour. So I want to make sure that I have all of the facts in order to give you the accuracy of how fast can this thing get to a person and bring, help
well, let's say that's a lot
keep them
faster than a
afloat
lifeguard can swim.
Well, that's what the everything I've read, it says it can get there faster than a lifeguard can.
Yes.
And I really thought that was just, that's amazing. And you don't have to worry about the risk of somebody. And that's another thing, people are like, well, I don't want a lifeguard drowning, saving somebody. But like, I know that's a topic, but like the Emily, we have options still.
Yeah. Heather, is there any, before you, sorry about that. Is there any chance that you can go to all the things that they don't want want you to talk about Facebook page and put a picture of this device so people know what it looks like. They can go check that out. Yeah.
Yeah, I can absolutely do that. And I'll post even the video from the demonstration that we did.
That would be fantastic.
So how long has St. Joe had this? It's recent, right?
Yeah, they just got it a couple weeks ago. It was a donation from the Ernsters.
It would be very helpful to talk with them too to find out how long it took them to get up to speed using it, and
to make sure that it's running July 11th.
Yeah.
Because the radio show, Rob Byrd's Moondog Show, is going to be participating in their boat race, their cardboard boat race. And we know they're going to sink. So hopefully we've got it there just to save Amanda and Mason.
I'm sure it'll be out there ready
when
to
the boat goes down, because inevitably the boat is going down. So sorry about that, Heather. Go ahead.
That's okay. I forgot where I was at, but
well, we're trying to ferret out these budgets, but
yeah.
And okay, so just moving on. Another thing was the 3 laptops needed, where I've done just some, basic idiot research, finding that tablets, or even I know it's controversial for lifeguards to have cell phones or designated lifeguard cell phones, but all this stuff can be done through like apps.
Yeah, absolutely. So there is an app. It's called What 3 Words. And I found out about this from Tim McGee at the Van Buren County Dispatch. And he told me that actually the most effective way to get through to dispatch is 911. Lo and behold,
it's immediate.
How do we get to 911, everybody, if there's no service out on the beach?
Right.
There's an SOS feature on your phone now that will absolutely go through to 911 dispatch every single time, regardless of if you have service or not. Even when you bump it when it's in your pocket, it'll call them.
Right. It'll landline. I mean, the old landline, just smash the buttons, and I think that it will.
Yeah. Well, when I suggested this at City Council, though, I was laughed at.
You were. I did not like the way that you were spoken to. But.
Yeah, it was not respectful, and I was taking my information from a respected person who does this every day, and I was laughed at for repeating that information in this City Council.
We
don't want to give names,
I don't know if we're
going
to have time. I have the notes right here. I could tell you in a little bit.
Yeah, let's not name names.
But it's the stuff is up there for everybody to watch. I'll post all the links. I've been trying to keep up on the links of this information that we keep getting. And that also gets into the portable radio that they said that we need 8 at $5,000 a pop, so that's $40,000.
So speaking on that, though, in order for them to even be able to get those radios, they would have to create their own channel. So when I was speaking with Tim McGee, he told me that what they would want to do is create their own channel, so that way when the lifeguards are chattering back and forth, people aren't hearing that. Right. And then also when there's an emergency, people aren't hearing that. And so what it would do is when they're at dispatch, they have like 50 channels up on the screen at one time that they're watching. Right. And they're not always listening to every channel, because that would just be inundated with information that's not relevant. They would hear all that chatter, and that's not what they want to hear. They want to hear the emergencies. So when they start to see a little bit of a spike in the activity on whatever channel, they will click that on just to double check that. And if it's not an emergency, then they kind of click it back off, and pay attention to it. But that's how it would work. And for the city to be requiring that they have their own separate channel and that this be monitored by dispatch is unrealistic. It's absolutely unrealistic. Yeah. And so they don't need all these $1,000 radios, and it's $1,000 per radio.
Right.
You don't need all of that stuff.
Well, the whole staffing. I mean, they feel they need 35 people. You felt 18 would do it.
Yes.
They felt they need another stand. That they needed an extra one on the South Beach, right?
Yeah,
I'm concerned though with their estimates, though, because it seemed like some of their sources were stuff from news articles in Florida or California.
Yeah, they were citing Facebook for things. Citing Facebook.
Like a Facebook opinion post.
If you went to college and wrote a paper and cited Facebook.
These would not be sources.
You would be... They didn't cite Facebook as a source?
No, they did. But like in college, you can't use that.
No, you would have an F. So when you start citing Facebook, that's certainly not reputable.
Yeah. And then... Just so we can keep moving on, I want to get some of these quick little ones out of the way. But like lifeguards needing fins I don't really understand.
I've got a wonderful visual on that. So they grab their fins, they jump off their stand, they get to the water. Hold on a second, you just wait. Let me get these fins on. I'll be just. And the strap breaks, and oh my god, you just hold on. I can't come in the water until I get my fins
and then
on.
They need 35 at $25 a piece, which is $875.
I did research this. So the National Library of Medicine did a study on fins, and they did long fins versus short fins, and they did timing and things like that too. I can send you a link for that to tag.
Well, if you ever try to run on land with short or long fins, it's not very easy.
Good luck. But it does say that, fins do add in a quicker response time for lifeguards. So it could be a beneficial equipment implementation. However, we need to see how that works, and we need to make sure that that's going to work for our beaches and that's going to work for our guards. But anything that's going to cut down time on being able to get to a possible drowning victim is going to be the best.
If they truly do, then I'm all for fins too. But if you've ever tried to put fins on and jump into the water, it's never a real easy process.
Right.
Well, they've got us talking about these things that are just so inconsequential at this point.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of to do anything.
I believe so.
They're, paralyzed, analysis by paralysis. And if you don't ever get this thing off dead center off, you can't do it in a public meeting.
Yeah.
You've got to, you got to build it. You're correct.
Yes.
You have to build this program. You don't start where the perfect world is and, what we could do if we had all the money in the world. That, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
In a small community.
It's not really how it works anywhere.
We don't have those generous benefactors out there that might want to just, like a whirlpool or something, just want to throw $500,000 at us to get started. So you got to build it. And you're correct. And so I think what their budget is and what your budget is, it's almost irrelevant if you don't sit down and really decide, how do we start this? How do we start?
And I've got a quick side note on that, though, Jim. I think that someone is looking at buying Whirlpool, a German company now.
Bosch.
Yes.
Bosch, yes. All right, sorry about that.
Okay, we'll bring Bosch in.
Hey, who knows?
You never know.
Yeah, they may be more willing.
Yeah, they're a good company. They're a good company. They've been around St. Joe a long time, and they're not strangers. So
And back to this.
Yes.
The lanyards with the whistle, $16 versus
it's never going to happen.
You actually had it was in your quote, right?
Yeah.
On this one. And I like that you had a quote on here for the uniforms versus the city didn't provide a receipt.
We actually quoted Waterman. Waterman, Dave Benjamin reached out to them and said, because I reached out to him and I said, hey, can you do this task for me within this lifeguard presentation? This is what I need to see. And so he did. He reached out to his contact at Waterman, and they do lifeguarding equipment all day long. And so they kind of built out a quote to say, this is what you would need in order to get started. And the biggest thing with starting anything, and that a business owner would always tell somebody when they come to them and they say, hey, what do I do? How do I do this? I really want to start this business. What's the first thing that they always say?
Well, how much?
Start.
Start.
Just start.
Put one foot in front of the other.
If you build it, they will come.
Exactly. You just have to start it.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're looking to the city to do, is just start it.
Get it started. Get it off the ground.
Yes.
Get us a place to work with. Show us some cooperation that we all want to work together and save lives and not worry about how pretty the town is right now,
and protect the citizens against the liability issues of the insurance while you're building it. I mean, it's important that we know how it's going to get funded, and it's important that we know how the citizens are protected in the event that something goes wrong.
That's the thing that I'm the most concerned about, is that they wanted to speak to the MML, which is the Michigan Municipal League, which it holds our liability insurance for the city of South Haven. And they wanted to do a closed door session with them after the lifeguard presentation that I did. And to me, I feel like as a taxpayer, we should have privy to that information of whatever it is that city council is told as a part of transparency and letting us know where our tax dollars are going and what we're liable for as taxpayers here in South Haven. We should know that information. And that is the piece that's being kept very, very quiet. Yeah. And we want to know why. Why?
Right. And
I mean, you can imagine an underwriter, how cautious they're going to be. And if you don't have the information that they're trying to throw out there as a decision of how they're rating it, you have no idea how to respond. and how to react to it.
Right, exactly. And we want to know those ratings.
Yeah,
we want to know all of what is it that the Michigan Municipal League will cover, and how much of that is involved in lifeguards, and what is the non-negotiables for them.
Right.
Yeah, we want to know those things because we want to help.
Yeah, you touched on insurance a second ago. Have you went out and got any quotes on what it would cost for insurance for the city or anything like that?
No, I actually reached out prior to the lifeguard presentation and asked the city if I could speak with the Michigan Municipal League to ask them in a generalized format what a lifeguarding program would cost for our insurance and liabilities. And they said no, that would be an overreach, that I'm not allowed to talk to the Michigan Municipal League.
Hold on a second. As a private citizen, you can call anybody you want.
No, they told me I could not.
Who told you that? Who told you
we
that?
weren't naming
Who told you?
names.
We're not naming names.
Yeah, as a private citizen, you can make a phone call to any organization you would like. You can ask any questions you would like. And you're an agent of this show, which is actually more of a news podcast. So I don't think they can exclude anybody from talking to anybody. Whoever told you that is full of crap.
Well,
Oh my.
I guess. I fully.
This is the right we have as Americans in this country.
and
That's
I-
what we've
yes.
been told.
I fully agree with you that I, as a taxpayer, should be able to talk to the Michigan Municipal League where
Yeah.
my tax dollars are going.
It's up to them to talk to you. If you call them,
They represent me as a citizen,
They can
right?
talk to you if they want or not talk to you. It's their choice. But for them to tell you you can't contact them to talk, that's just an absolute load of BS.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on from that now that we know what they're full of.
The lightning rods. This is something I've never really even.
Lightning rods.
I guess it didn't click in my brain.
The city of South Haven put lightning rods in their budget. And so lightning rods are basically...
I mean, they should attach them to the pier for all the... I shouldn't say that, sorry.
My main question is, they want them, it seems, on all the towers. Well, is this something that we should have already had on the beaches? Like, I'm concerned now as just a normal citizen.
They just want to ground the towers is really what they're talking about, right?
Pretty much.
Okay.
which is pretty simple.
Which is really pretty simple.
Right.
But you have an app. There's Bob Pratt got up during public comment after my lifeguard presentation and said, I have a lightning rod app that's on my phone, and it will tell me when there's going to be an extreme amount of lightning and where, not to be. And then I reached out to Brandon Hins this morning because I did see Amanda's note on this, and I wanted to come in with factual information. And I asked him about that, and he said, nope, never even heard of them.
Oh, wow. Well, the city thinks that we need 8 at $229 a piece, which would total $18.25.
Yeah, so his actual quote response
32, sorry.
was none. I didn't know it was a thing, end quote.
Well, they were talking about metal stands, right?
Yes.
So thus the reason to probably ground them.
Same ones we
Yeah.
probably used to have. I'm sure the technology and lifeguard stands hasn't changed much.
It's not that difficult
Right.
to ground something.
But why
no,
not
absolutely.
build them out of they make like the laminate kind of decking and composite decking
Yes.
and things
It can be
like
made
that
out of
these
wood,
days.
sure.
It can be made out of composite,
Sure.
so it's not going to rot.
Well, if
I
anything,
really don't
it's a
think
good
metal
thing
is the
to
best
explore.
idea.
We
Right.
could actually find a solution to
Instead of using
the whole
metal,
thing.
yeah, instead of using steel bases, you
Yeah.
can use
I
composite.
guess it didn't even click to me that lifeguard stands, I thought they were wood, honestly.
But
I
then
really
it would
didn't
make
know.
it, especially if you used composite, it would make it so much lighter. So you could move them out of any kind of pathway of water. So you're not having to rebuild them every year, like the
Right.
stairs were washed out at the Casco Township Preserve.
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
sad.
That
How
was
close
so
are they
sad.
to how close are they to the water?
They're going to be a few feet back from shore, but
So they're
we
close.
had it.
They're close.
Yeah, we actually went out. Sam Kester went out with the wheel that you can measure distance.
Like a survey-
I don't- yes,
survey wheel
the
or
survey
something?
wheel, yeah. And she actually measured it because there's a line of sight that a lifeguard needs to have, and in between each tower there needs to be that kind of line of sight, and so that's how you kind of space them out. And so that's what we did within the program, is we made sure that with that line of sight was considered in where we were placing towers in order to know how many towers to put on
Yeah.
each beach.
It seems like they were always about 30, 40, 50 feet back. That's not far.
Yeah, not
50
far at
feet when you're
all.
running is only about 10 steps.
Right.
Well, and then the source that the city used for the lightning rods was a news article of somebody who was I think, killed or injured by a lightning strike.
Yeah, and the news
A
articles
lifeguard
were,
was?
A lifeguard.
Yeah, and the news articles too were, a little outdated and things like that. There's a lot more technology now.
I just
Yeah.
feel like I needed a little bit more information on what actually was happening.
Well, plus when there's a big storm rolling, I think you should have enough sense if you're sitting on a lightning rod, a big metal lifeguard stand, that you might want to get off of it.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be out there for that.
You don't swim when the thunder, when the you're not out there swimming when the storm's coming in. Have you ever seen anybody come out of the water after it got hit by lightning? No. I've seen it before, and their hair standing straight up. Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So it's not just a movie.
It's just enough to give you a little bit of buzz, and the guy's hair was straight up walking
Wow.
out, like when you do a balloon on your head. Uh huh.
No, I've never seen that. I don't think I
I
really
just got
want
like
to.
shivers throughout my whole body.
Yeah.
All right, and just for time's sake, and this was just by chance. I have a whole bunch of old newspapers laying around, and I saw this article from August 27th last year, 2023, the South Haven Tribune, under the article "Rotary Club Helps Shore Up Beach Safety Efforts." It states that the Rotary Club of South Haven presented a check totaling $13,500 towards the purchase of 3 automated external defibrillators, 6 year-round life ring cabinet stations, and in the April 2024 report, the city said that they would need 11 Stryker AEDs totaling $22,000. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they included those 3 that they already received. So do we need
Yeah,
8?
I don't know either.
14?
Yeah.
That was something that was confusing to me just as a,
So a
average
good
idiot
question
citizen.
is, where did it go?
Yeah.
And I would like some clarification from the city on where those AEDs even are right now, and if the people who have these AEDs are even trained properly to use them, because it seems very controversial to have on the beach, but a much needed item at the same time.
Yeah, and in our report, we made sure to mention, because we did see this in their 11-page letter, we call it the letter,
Right.
after the presentation or whatever, we made sure to kind of let them know that you don't need that many AEDs out on the beach. I mean, you're going to place those AEDs, one in each of the head guard towers, so that they're on the beach and readily available, but you don't need one in every, because there's only 6% of drownings are recovered in a shockable rhythm.
Oh, okay.
Only 6%.
That's a low number.
And not only that, but you have to dry the chest in order to be able to place those on and that kind of a thing. But
To me, they're kind of, with water, they're kind of a liability to start with. If someone doesn't do it right, you might kill somebody right then and there.
yeah, and drowning first is a respiratory emergency. It's not a cardiac emergency. So, you really have to be careful about overspending.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're seeing a lot of overspending in that budget with the truck. Doesn't need to be a $70,000 truck. You don't even need that if you're going to have the ATVs.
I
It's
know where
not
they-
like we're a Baywatch Beach where
Right.
we are a major, massive, longshore Californian beach. We don't need a $70,000 pickup truck driving up and down these beaches.
Right.
That's
Well,
just
the truck
ridiculous.
and 2 ATVs.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And plus, from what I hear, is you have to park them somewhere, which you'll lose revenue if you park them on the beach because of those parking spots they're going
Right.
to take up.
80,
Right.
Yep,
Yeah.
I saw that.
But I
Yeah.
actually have I have
the quote.
a fix for that.
The quote.
Yeah.
And we'll let you quote that in a second. But my fix for that is, why don't you park those instead of renting out the kayaks and floaties and whatever over there on the corner of the South Beach? Why not be that where you park your truck?
Right. Yeah.
Right,
That
because
would make sense.
in the city's letter, they were very concerned about the loss of revenue from the beach safety attendants or the lifeguards parking, and they will staff park at the beach, and if so, has the cost of their beach parking sticker been added to the budget? Should we account for the lost revenue for each parking spot for the lifeguards?
No, you make a spot for them that
Yeah.
does not take any revenue.
we could find some parking spots by the water treatment plant. I trust you.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
even a... Look
it.
at Jim has the great idea.
Yeah.
I love that idea.
Or how about we take one of the employee parking spots that they have for some of the beach shacks? We could take one of those for,
Or
for a
maybe we
life-saving-
build bathrooms and put them where the porta johns are.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
could do. Yeah, exactly.
See, this is why we need to talk, because we can find these workarounds
Well,
really easily.
It is.
I don't think our people are bad people that are on these commissions. I think it's a culture that is really difficult to break through and change, and it's just the way government works. And It's always protect yourself, and it's inertia. You just don't get anything done.
Yeah.
But it's about protecting themselves, not protecting the community, it seems.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Then they always feel they have other priorities. So you could easily do this to a committee that's under the parks or something like that. You could bring in somebody like Brian DeBest. And you not Brian DeBest, excuse me.
Brian Dissett.
Brian Dissett. Yeah. Thanks, Brian. I gave you some free publicity.
Right, there you go.
Lake Arvesta.
Lake Arvesta Farm, South Haven, Michigan.
But, Brian Dissett, somebody like that, say, let's, really help us out to see what you did at Silver Beach.
Hey, they have lifeguards.
It's a very big beach. It's got a lot of the similarities to what we have. And, they've got a program and they've got budgets and they've talked to the insurance people, and they've got the liability issues. And, we could get a lot of information without having to reinvent the wheel. But we got to get started. Like you said, you got to take that step, and it's never going to get started the way we're doing it. I mean, we're almost chasing, mirrors with these budgets. It's just like a waste of time to.
Yeah.
The problem is not whether we're going to be 400,000 or 200,000 or 700,000. The problem is that nobody wants to get to that point where the budgets even mean anything.
Right. And there's the overspending in general, like a $16 lanyard wristle. And I found them on, I don't know if they have to have a certain type, but on Amazon, I found bulk for very cheap.
Do they have a $100,000 toilet in the budget too?
You know what's really funny?
Tiny toilets.
I actually found a $60 whistle at the trophy stop, the trophy store down in St. Joe. It's a $60 whistle, and it's like titanium, and it's just like the most absurd thing. But
you can defend yourself with it too.
There's, maybe a $60 titanium whistle, but there's never going to be a lanyard with a whistle on the end of it for a lifeguard that's $16. It just does not exist.
Right.
So you got to really watch these budgets because there's a lot of overinflation.
Right.
And it's just to scare people. It's going to scare people away from the topic and say, "Oh, we don't want to pay for that."
That's what it's doing. And there's always money to do the priorities that you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you look at how many projects
how fast they do.
You look at the projects we've done around South Haven. They add up to tens of millions of dollars that they've been able to find a way to do it through the DNR trust fund money or matching grants. They found ways to do some of things that don't benefit as many people as maybe this might. And there's ways to do things, but you have to have first of all, you got to have some kind of a commitment that you're willing to start talking.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we finally got that commitment though from City Council when they pushed it to threat priority 3. Now that it's a priority 3, and now that they have this explore implementation of beach safety improvements designated with $700,000 in the budget, I really want to know, where the MML came in with saying yes we can or no we can't.
Okay.
I want to know that, but other than that, they need to figure out too where they're going to get that $700,000.
Well, my question is now that they've done that, where do they go? Because like I said, we see these kind of numbers and it scares people, and it almost feels like they want to make these kind of numbers just so they don't have to deal with us.
Now, see, it's their MO though too. They did a bait and switch back with the old Lifeguard program under the correct program. So what they did was they presented to get rid of the information center at the police station in order to cut costs to save in the budget. And when the whole community went in an uproar about, no, we're not getting rid of that. How dare you even suggest it? They came back and said, well, we need to cut something. So what happened? CREC went away. That means the Lifeguard program went away. They saved $60,000, I think at the time, was what they were paying into the CREC program. So
how much have they paid out for lawsuits?
Exactly.
For not having that?
Millions.
Wow.
So to me, it seems like right now they're doing the same thing with a bait and switch. They want to do this bait and switch on us and say, "Oh my God, it's gonna cost you $700,000. Be scared because your tax dollars are going to pay for this, and there's going to be so many lawsuits if it's not done right, and all these things." And it's like you're just scaring the public. You're trying to build a rhetoric around this in order to scare people away from it yet again. Yeah. This has been, and this isn't a new conversation. This has been happening since they got rid of it in 2001. So people in the community kind of seem to starting to perk up to this conversation and really start to get involved when they haven't done that since 2001. But they have to understand this is not a new conversation. This has been happening for quite some time now.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that, people aren't getting turned off by the city when they're coming in and trying to use these scare tactics. Really be realistic about things.
And I think we got, with doing this podcast, doing our part to make sure that we kind of look at that for the city, and hopefully we can digest it and regurgitate it in a way that everybody understands, because this is fairly complicated and a lot of people don't understand city politics. And tell you the truth, I don't really even like them. I don't want nothing to do with them, but I got dragged into this and now here we are talking about it. Mm-hmm. So, but what I want to see out of it is their ability to say, yes, let's actually talk to some people that are working with this, and not just, and I know in Kate's report, she made some phone calls, talked to Kim Wise and talked to some other people, but you're actually talking to people that are still here within the system.
Right.
We need to be looking outside of the system to be able to come up with that plan.
I know I personally would love to see the notes from when the city talked to the people in New Buffalo and Silver Beach. I haven't been able to find that. I don't know. Their website, it's confusing. I'm still learning how to navigate that thing. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I would love to know. I don't know if they, like, to me,
publish their notes.
Average idiot citizen here, I just feel like they just said that because I don't see any notes. And maybe I just didn't see it in the pack. I don't know.
No, but they don't divulge their notes.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not. You'd have to go Freedom of Information.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yep. Yeah. I asked. Actually, Kate referenced some notes on her desk about the lifeguarding, about the radios and about some other things during the priority settings meeting. And I had sent her an email and asked her, when I was doing the research for the lifeguard presentation, I said, it would be really helpful for my presentation if I had those notes or understood those notes to be able to speak on them.
Sure.
And really do the research on them in order to hand that to you. Yeah. And she goes, I don't know what notes you're talking about.
Oh,
imagine that.
So, just so we can probably end on a positive note.
Yeah, because we got a couple minutes left.
Is there anything that the city got right in their letter to you?
No comment.
No comment.
No, that letter to you is
that the positive note?
Can we?
I was hoping.
Sorry.
Can that letter be publicized?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Then please put that letter on on our Facebook page.
The letter
whatever
after
letter
the presentation.
Yeah, whatever they sent to you.
I have
it's
it.
Published.
I have it all printed.
And
right
then
here,
Amanda, if you would be able to please maybe put those budgets on so where people can find those, a link to them so they can look themselves, because I don't want you to just take our word for it. I want you to do your own research. I want you to go out and what we want to do here is make you think, say and then go and look at this yourself, draw your own conclusions. Go ahead.
I'd like to teach people to fish, kind of a thing, instead of you feed a man, give him a fish, you feed him for a day, teach him to fish, they feed themselves for life. Yeah. But this is a long packet. It's 111 pages, but what's actually the beach safety part is a smaller portion. But I will do my best to get everything out so the city
start with the budget. Start with the budgets because it can overwhelm.
You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I always suggest too to watch the video. You can watch the video from City Council to see the actual presentation that I did and then see the rebuttal afterwards. There was a full conversation with City Council, with Kate Hosier, with Kim Wise.
I wouldn't be upset if you linked that video to our Facebook page also. Okay. That'd be a good place to find that stuff. I said I want you guys to all check it out and not just listen and say, oh, these guys know exactly what they're talking about, or they don't know what they're talking about. I
even have the link for the newspaper article.
Go and find out for yourself. Still, there's a lot of things to be hashed out when it comes to lifeguards. That liability thing, it will always be an issue. Even if you have lifeguards or you don't have lifeguards, there is going to be some kind of liability. But where does that end? And where do we minimize that liability? Which is what we're trying to do, and save lives. We want the people that come to this town to be safe. Not that we can stop every drowning, because drownings are going to happen. That's why they call them accidents. And it will happen even with lifeguards. But if we save even one life, does that make it worth it? What's the money? What's the dollar you put on a life? Ask that city council. What dollar do you put on one life that dies here in our water.
Yeah.
And from there, then now, okay, so you think that's only worth $100,000? Okay, now 2 people. Now we're at your budget already.
What I'm most terrified for this summer is I feel like those 2 teens that got swept away was our warning. And I feel
it's a good warning.
So strongly that we may not be as lucky next time. This was our wake up call for the summer.
Yes.
And I hope that something changes very quickly.
Yeah. Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
And to not,
we need
I don't know if.
Yes. And as a note to our mayor, you feel free to recognize when something good and somebody gets saved.
Yeah.
It is something you should be doing and pointing out in our meetings. So, all right, with all that being said, I'm not going to let you say any more, Amanda. You're over there shaking your head. Heather Johnson, thank you very much for coming on.
My
Amanda
pleasure.
Jones, Jim Horan, always
you,
such
Rob.
good questions, but still, we are just scratching the surface of this issue. We are going to keep scratching that surface until we need stitches or surgery, whatever it may be. But until there is some movement made on this and the campaign promises that have been made are moving forward, then maybe I'll let up. But until then, not so much. So with all that, and as far as I'm concerned, anybody doing water safety is good water safety. There's other groups out there doing it. I think keep on doing what you're doing. The more people that are discussing water safety and trying to make it happen for South Haven, the more chances is it's going to. So with all that being said, this is all the things they don't want you to talk about. Another great podcast. Thank you very much. If you want more information, go to tabootalkback.com. You can see all of our last episodes. Check us out. We are here for you, and we're here to have some fun too at the same time. So with all that being said, we'll see you next time. All the Things They Don't Want You to Talk About podcast is part of the Rob Byrd Moondog Podcast Network. Go to tabootalkback.com for more information. Copyright 2024.